So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody world over. And somebody has also taught me nowadays when the environment is taking care of itself, we all are confined to the residence, and particularly the plants, the trees, and the animals, they are breathing fresh oxygen on the roadside, whatever we have constructed all these years. So green morning, green afternoon, and green evening to everyone. So hearty welcome to all of you, and ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters world over. Hope you are taking care of yourself, your health, your wellness, your family, your neighbors, your community, and all the people those are directly, indirectly associated with you or somewhere in touch with you. Please take care of yourself, because if you are fine, the world is fine. That's the way we have to go. Yet another powerful evening, and today is the 73rd program of the webinar since we started in this coronavirus. And 5 p.m. Indian Standard Time, we extend a very warm welcome, Making Education Relevant. That is the series, what we have taken up and what we have started. And this evening is dedicated to India-ASEAN relationship, collaborations, and whatever cooperations and whatever projects are to be undertaken. Our present president of the Chamber, International Chamber for Service Industry, is based out of Thailand. And of course, at the same time, we are also getting a lot of patronage from Dato Ramesh Kodamalji, who is co-chairman of the ASEAN India Business Council from Malaysia. So ladies and gentlemen, all the Indians, and when I go across, it's early morning, very early morning when I look towards Canada, when I look towards particularly Latin America, when I talk about United States, different shores, different time zones. And when I come to Europe, of course, in Europe, you must have enjoyed your early lunch, and thereafter, we have come for some time, and then you will be due for your evening tea and coffee. So let's join hands. I'm thankful to all our presidents, our advisors, our research teams in the different countries. Wherever you are, either you are on the webinar or you are with us at present because you prefer to come on the Facebook. Open your watch parties, come on Dr. Gulshan Sharma's page. It would be a pleasure to share this evening process thoughts and ideas what can be done between India and ASEAN. So ladies and gentlemen, while extending a very hearty welcome to each one of you, from Europe, I will come to Central Asia, and particularly people those join us from Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and of course towards this side when I come to South Asia, Afghanistan, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Maldives, all the places wherever you join us. Middle East, I'm grateful to all of you, people those come every day from Doha, Qatar, Oman, those come from Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Dubai. I'm so grateful to all the brothers and sisters, my NRI families, those are the part of this program. And from India, let me also move now to 650 million population, wonderful 10 countries, the fastest growing region, most peaceful region, all the 10 countries, when I talk about Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam, and Brunei, all of them, they are doing extremely, extremely well, and India and ASEAN moving together. And I'm very fortunate at this point of time, it's around 9:30 and quarter to 10. People either have just finished their dinner or they are having in Australia, in New Zealand, and in Fiji. Thank you very much for joining us from different shores, different parts of the world, and hearty welcome to each one of you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me share with all of you, our chamber, International Chamber for Service Industry, since 1994, is trying to get all the non-resident Indians, those have gone world over. Our focus is service industry. Economy of any country is based on 3 areas: agriculture, manufacturing, and tertiary sector. That's your services sector. So our focus is services sector, and we are taking care of, at present, the relationship between government, corporate, and non-resident Indian business interface, which can take place between India and overseas. First of all, our heartiest congratulations to all the stakeholders, and particularly the chairman of the new education policy, Shri Kasturi Ranganji, Dr. Kasturi Ranganji, who was the chairman earlier for ISRO as well, and who led the entire nation. And it's a wonderful moment after 3 decades plus, the new education policy has come in India. Any country which has developed, any country which has done wonders, any country which has progressed, the base and the foundation of the progress is education. If the education is pragmatic, and I still recollect what Macaulay told in the parliament, in the British parliament, if you want to rule India, you got to finish their present education system. And that's what we talk about, and we come on to look at in ASEAN, Singapore doing extremely well because education plays very important role. When I went to a couple of universities, I went to their technical university, I went to their polytechnic, I went to Lecon Institute over there. And when you hear people like Kishore Mehbubani and all other people, you get, and the book which he has come out with recently, West, Now You Rest. That's the book which one has to go through, and it is a mind-blowing where you come to know that 21st century belongs to Asia, and Asians got to be working very hard further together. Now, I personally feel one need not to go all the way to Canada, United States, and Europe. Why can't we think about, and something in Asia itself, there's a lot of wonderful, innovative, collaborative pedagogies which can be developed and andragogies which can be developed in this particular region. So particularly when we talk about education collaboration, the new education policy which has come in India is such a wonderful document. If you go through between the lines, each and every word is to be understood. Vocational, the internship, and particularly skills development, competencies, that all has been made as an integral part of education right from the 6th standard onward in the school itself. And of course, in the higher education, once again, the new norms have come. MPhil has been done away with. The B.Ed has come for 4 years right after 12th if you want to become an educator. And at the same time, if you want to go for PhD, you need not to have the MPhil. After doing your master's of 1 year after your undergraduate program, you can straightway enroll. Innovation and research is another area which has been emphasized. And then all the stakeholders brought together under one umbrella, and there's going to be one body which is going to be taking care of higher education instead of present setup what you have got, where you have got AICT, you have got UGC, you have got NIPA, you have got a couple of other platforms, and you have got National Council for Teacher Education. All is going to be amalgamated together. It's a wonderful document. And day before yesterday, one of the legends of the Indian music industry, when I talk about Asha Bhosle ji, I'm pretty sure each one of us must have enjoyed Asha Bhosle's all variety of songs. She was so happy that she complimented Indian Prime Minister and the entire cabinet, because now the science student can study music also. The arts and commerce, all tight compartments have been dissolved and everything brought under one umbrella. You can study commerce, you can take fashion designing. Imagine what a combinations, anything you can do. So hearty welcome. These are some of the highlights, which is very important. Each one of us should be proud of this particular moment. And most important is the government has decided that 6% of the GDP would be spent on the education sector. And the Ministry of HRD has been renamed now. So our deepest and heartiest congratulations and regards to Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank ji also, now the Minister for Education in India. What if the entire thought process is put into practice? India will be in a position to do wonders. At the same time, from offshore, more collaboration of the foreign universities and coming to India together. And the Honorable Prime Minister's agenda, if India has to become self-reliant, Atmanirbhar Bharat, when you talk about, and that is possible only when the education system is going to be empowered. Ladies and gentlemen, during this COVID-19 pandemic, the whole world is facing a lot of challenges. Of course, we have got lots of difficulties, but the most important part is the schools, the colleges, the polytechnics, the ITIs, all institutions are closed at this point of time. And all teachers, all educators and education providers are trying to reach the youth wherever they are with their parents. And every day, Monday to Friday, as we have got 7 to 8 p.m. a program which is going on, and imagine 70 episodes already we have done earlier. And this morning we had another episode, and now is coming up another program what we have got. all of them, they were laughing, and teachers were telling that now there is no principal of school. There is no director or vice chancellor of the university. Now the parents are the vice chancellor and they are the directors and they are the principals, because they are watching how their children are being taught, how the teachers are teaching, and they are carrying out the evaluation of the entire process. So ladies and gentlemen, 1.6 billion. Imagine what population of the world, children and the youth, roughly half of the world's student population at present is away. But at the same time, we from India, we believe in a philosophy. When I was talking with one of the participants just now, and that is Vasudev Kutumbakam. That means one world, one love, one family, all of us together. Our chamber, its own way. We are so happy. We are reaching out every day to teachers, to the youth, and everywhere world over, right from Mongolia to Central Asia to Middle East, and going all the way to Europe. And wherever our help, our assistance, our inputs, and whatever is required, we would be more than happy if any educational institution in ASEAN are interested to work together during this particular Corona period time, during this lockdown period time. If you wish, without charging anything, purely as a gesture on a complimentary basis, we would be more than happy to help you for the digital literacy, blended and the flipped learning, communication skills part. One of the areas which we have to take into consideration is particularly the language part, because people are so hospitable, they are so nice, but when it comes to communication, we have lots of difficulties while dealing with. And then, of course, now when we are in the virtual world, you have got virtual sales, virtual marketing, and customer service. All that has become on telephone, on visuals. It has become very important. And at the same time, when children are away from schools, colleges, institutions, they are having some kind of a challenge. It's not only the physical, it is the mental aptitude and robustness also, which is very, very important. Music plays very important role, ladies and gentlemen. And there's a lady in Assam, Dr. Sunita Bhuiya. She plays a violin and she teaches personality development, leadership, management, everything related to music and positive thinking, higher cognitive skills, and specific trade in case if you need any assistance, ultimately everything leading to life management skills. Our chamber would be more than happy to collaborate, assist, and wherever we can have together some growth, we can work it out. Now, technology is going to play a very important role for all of us, whether augmented reality or you talk about artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things, all that is the future. Nobody can escape. When people laugh at it, look, the whole education system has got changed now, and adaptability is so good now. All teachers world over, they have adapted. Ladies and gentlemen, this change was bound to come. The only thing is it is a premature firing. It has come little before time. And if it has come, if we adopt it soon, better it is, because we all will be benefited from the new pedagogy and the new innovative ways of teaching. And we should say learning as far as youth are concerned. So this particular webinar series, Making Education Relevant, we started on 5th of June. That's World Environment Day. Why we started on 5th of June? Because the water crisis, water-related misunderstanding, and water issues are going to be a lot of challenges. Those of us who watch ZTV, and if you watch DNA, just see 4 or 5 days before Sudhir Chaudhary's program, which is on the water conservation and what dams are being built up by some of the countries and how they are stopping the water. Whenever they would feel like they will stop the water in your rivers, in the Brahmaputra also of India, and whenever they would like, they will release excess of water. Water conservation is very, very important for all of us. So when children are at present with their parents, it's a caution and it's a piece of advice and it's a request. Let's save every drop of water, whatsoever we can. And in our residence, if we start saving, then we will save in school, colleges, and institutions when they reopen. When you go to your workplaces, there also you got to be taken care of. Saturday morning, every Saturday morning, we are talking about the relevance of Buddha's teaching in today's education. I'm thankful to the Secretary General of International Buddhist Confederation. From the world over, 500 million people, those are following Buddhism, they all come together, and we have got the international speakers coming, and they discuss and deliberate what are Buddha's teaching and what is the relevance of that in today's education. When we have talked enough of education Monday to Friday, because we should not be talking only about education, and you can take a good education and a learning when your health is fine. There is a wonderful book you must see on the YouTube. It is by Tim Grover. He's an Indian who used to be the coach for Michael Jordan. That book which he has written, he says 99% people, they go to the gym and they devote time for their body. They try and make their packs, body packs, and they look at their body and they feel very happy. But Tim Grover says, if even 10% of that time you spend on your mind, because ultimately it's your mind which is a monkey, it's your mind which you have to take care of. If you can control your mind, so yoga, meditation, naturopathy, organic food, nutrition, all that we talk with you, we get the international experts, Ayurveda for the global wellness, every Saturday evening, 7 to 8 p.m. Do join us, be a part of this journey. If you're interested to keep good health, you're more than welcome to be a part of this particular program. You can come on the webinar also, you can come on the Facebook also, Dr. Gulshan Sharma's page. We would be more than happy. And come Sunday morning. Who says Sunday should be a holiday? I believe over the years, and whenever I talk to universe, I'm just 70-year young, but the energy which I carry is that of 20-year-old boy. How that is possible? That is my lifestyle, and that is my positive dopamine. How that works? It is all your thought process, ladies and gentlemen. Totally vegetarian, never tasted even a beer in my life. I get up at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and after this webinar, another 2 hours, I go to sleep like a log, and only positive thoughts, because another motivator of mine when I teach in United States, the gentleman is called Les Brown, and there's another one who passed away, Jim Rohn. They say there are more than 60,000 thoughts which pass through your mind every day. And it is unconsciously, most of the thoughts by nature, by this particular universe, they are negative. You got to put in efforts to consciously make them positive. So it is very important, ladies and gentlemen, every Sunday morning we start with India's epics, India's whatsoever we have got, the Granths, Upanishad. And Sunday morning we are talking nowadays on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and Professor Satyendra Dhiman, he comes from the Woodbury University, Burbank, California, and he is covering up 3 chapters every Sunday. This morning also we had wonderful deliberations, lots of questions, and there was very interesting question which he gave. I think I wish to share with all of you if I get yes. This morning he gave 3 questions, very interesting. Where is God? Why can't I see him? And what does he do whole day? These were the 3 questions which he took this morning, and people laughed and laughed, laughed and laughed. That is the way, because education has to be fun, it has to be entertaining, it has to be interesting, it has to be stimulating, it has to be rewarding. Have you ever noticed, take a small child who is 5 years old, 6 years old, or 10 years old. You give him mobile phone or give him the iPad. He or she would skip the meals, lunch, or whatever you want to give, but they would like to solve that problem, whatever they are doing on the phone. And that's why I was talking with one of the panelists that, are you into gamification? Where the positive games? Because our chamber is at presently in touch with 65 companies, and we are working in the direction to build all the positive games world over so that children can be benefited. Excuse me. So, after we will finish with the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we will be coming on Vidya se Adhyatam, Vidya ki aur. That means we'll be talking about India's Upanishads. Ladies and gentlemen, 12th of August is going to be a wonderful day, a very, very historic day, because this day is dedicated to youth. And our education, what we are talking about is basically we are keeping the perspective of learning centric and youth is centric. What does youth want? What does today's youth is expecting from us? And do not underestimate the potential, the caliber, and the creativity and the innovative capacities of the younger generation. They are so wonderful. They are so innovative. At my age, we might be making 4 or 5 or 10 usage of the mobile phone. But if you read the latest India Today, there are 4,000 usage of the mobile phone. What all mobile can do. And when we are talking about artificial intelligence, just wait for a little while what the world is going to be and how it's going to be and what all changes are coming up in education. You got to understand. So education got to be relevant to day-to-day life. There's another video you must see of Sugata Mitra. Dr. Sugata Mitra, he was initially with the IIT Delhi, then he moved to United States, and then he moved to UK. Now he's retired in 2019, and he should be in West Bengal somewhere. We should try and, I would request Sandeep Majumdar ji, we should get across to him. Dr. Sugata Mitra, he did beautiful experiment in his hometown in West Bengal. एक दीवार के अंदर, in one wall, he fitted 2 computers without any teacher. And on the top, he put 1 camera. And 1 month, nobody was there to interfere with the children. Children were learning at their own. They were coming after 1 month when they took out the data from that computer and that particular, the camera, it was a mind-blowing what all creativity children have got. So they don't require supervision all the times. They require free time. They require their own time. Let's give a space to children. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get all the countries' youth from the world over. We have written world over to all the embassies, high commissions, UNESCO, UNDP, UNICEF, World Bank, ILO, and everybody we are trying to get across. From all the countries, we are trying to get the youth together on a common platform on a World Youth Day, and we will have a celebrations from morning 9 a.m. till evening 9 p.m. That is a 12 hours non-stop webinar where we are going to discuss and we are going to listen to youth. What do they want? That is going to be Wednesday, 12th of August, ladies and gentlemen. This is the finding of our chamber in the last 3 months, right from the 25th of March. Almost 142 countries, the research has been combined, compiled, synthesized. So the golden triangle is no more Delhi, Agra, Jaipur in India, and B2B is no more business to business. It is back to basics. And when you talk about back to basics of life, it's very important to understand the first and the prime need is, are you growing enough vegetables in your kitchen garden, on the rooftop of your residence? Wherever you have got any place, any space in your residence, try and grow organic, your own vegetables so that you're not dependent on outside, because today everybody is talking in the air. Nobody knows when the corona will go, when the pandemic will get over, when the vaccine will come. And even if the vaccine comes, who is going to get the first? What's going to be the cost? What's going to be the price? Is it going to be affordable? There are so many questions which are there, and nobody knows what world is going to face tomorrow. So thereby, we got to be self-dependent as far as the survival part is concerned. Start growing your own vegetables in your own residence. Number 2, I hope you are taking care of your health and wellness. That is very important to understand for all of us. We would request you. And the third part is education is going to be earn and learn, like it is happening in Europe, like it's happening at other places world over. Now we got to understand, children got to do the internship also, they got to do the part-time also, they got to learn the vocationals also. And right from the 6th onward, when they come on to, you got to understand how to earn and how to learn. Entry and exit is going to be so flexible. If you study for 1 year, you get certificate. If you do it for 2 years, you get diploma. If you do it for 3 years, you get simple degree. If you do 4 years, you do the basic foundation for your masters also. So ladies and gentlemen, the world is going to get to back to the basics, and that is the future, the finding what we have got. This is the last slide. Before I introduce my today's distinguished warriors and the guests, because like doctors, nurses, and paramedical, and all the people, those are engaged in medical fraternity, I think all the experts and all educators and whosoever is giving direct or indirect support to the entire ecosystem are the warrior in their own way. This is something which I studied and read long time back, and I carry. This is the base of my entire belief. Whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe, human mind, whatsoever you can conceive and believe, you can achieve, because all power is within you. So let's come together. Let's make education relevant. It's a global confluence of educators, motivators, technocrats, counselors, and experts from the world over. International Chamber for Service Industry extends you a very warm welcome. Should you wish to be a panelist or you want to give any suggestions, you can send it to us at innovation@icsi.asia. Should you wish to send a small WhatsApp, both the numbers are given over here. It would be a pleasure. We are looking forward to, we are hungry. We are looking forward to more and more experts, more and more people. And when I talk about ASEAN, I was requesting the other day, the advisor, Mr. Sudit Majumdar, that we want to bring the stakeholders from all the ASEAN countries. All of us, let's put our heart, our soul, our spirit, our mind, our body together and work out in the direction what we can do. So ladies and gentlemen, these are the warriors this evening, those have joined for this particular program. And on behalf of our chamber, ICSI, International Chamber for Service Industry, we extend a very hearty welcome to our distinguished warriors, esteemed guests and distinguished guests this evening. I start with Mr. D. Jesudas Bell. He is a director, Future Links International. Mr. Bell is a former Indian diplomat. He has had a number of postings, including in Malaysia, Vietnam, and Cambodia. He comes from the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. After retirement, he served as a vice president with a software company in Bangalore and Singapore, and thereafter established his own company. He's a director of Future Links International, a Singapore-based company which has operations in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. Mr. Bell is keenly interested in expanding cooperation and investment between the Indo-China countries and Singapore as well as India. We extend a very hearty welcome this evening to Mr. D. Jesudas Bell Sahab. He has joined us. It's such a pleasure. We have been joined by Mr. Amit Kulshresth ji. He's the CEO of GoalFinder, and goalfinder.com is the company. He's coming from a family of teachers. That means education. He continues that tradition of working in teaching and digital education field. For the last 17 years, he has been running goalfinder.com, a website focused on digital education. If he has been doing for the last 17 years, I think there's a lot to pick up from him this evening. It has school and college animation based on curiosity learning, software for learning, Japanese, and software for design and banking exams. Also, he has been teaching at MBA institutes. He also runs a design training institute for NID, NIFT, and for banking and government exam preparations. A very hearty welcome to Mr. Amit Kulshresth this evening. We have been joined by Mr. Sudit Majumdar. He's a founder, managing trustee, that is Nayanatara Memorial Charitable Trust, associated with Ramakrishna Mutt and Mission and its various centers. He's a district convener of Swami Vivekanand Bhave Anuragi Zilla Smiti under Ramakrishna Mission, Institute of Culture, Gold Park, Kolkata. Member of Mentor Group Parivar Education Society. He is actively involved in social services and tribal welfare work through Rotary clubs on national level and has been felicitated and honored for his work. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, India और ASEAN को सूत्र में बांधने वाले Mr. Sandeep Majumdar, the president of the Indian Chamber of Commerce, Cambodia. He's a chairman and managing director of Curewell International Company Limited. Polite and sophisticated Mr. Sandeep Majumdar has an unmatched business sense with strong conviction in ethics and relationships. Business expansion has a meaning for him only if it is accompanied with a value and a betterment for the humanity, for the people world over. And he is the one who has put in a lot of hard work and getting these people together. So while extending a very hearty welcome to all these my distinguished guests this evening, ladies and gentlemen, and while conveying my thanks to my president who is watching this program from Bangkok, and at the same time Dato Ramesh Kodamalji from Malaysia, and Karan Singh Thakralji from Singapore, and of course, all other dignitaries, those have joined. Let me remove the curtains and let me extend a very warm welcome and heartfelt greetings to all my distinguished panelists and the guests, those have come over here. And I would request Mr. Sandeep Majumdar now to start today's program. And he's the one who is going to conduct it further. And I want to be a silent listener after talking so much. Wishing you all a great evening, happy evening, warm evening, and wellness for the whole world and everybody, whosoever is.
Thank you, Dr. Gulshan. Dr. Gulshan Sharma, as usual, I'm in my elder brother. Today, as we have already introduced, our first speaker would be Mr. Jesudas Bell from Singapore. My acquaintance with Mr. Bell was in 2002 when he was in the Ministry of External Affairs, and he came to Cambodia with the delegation of then Prime Minister Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee in 2002. And since then, we have met, we are friends. He's also in the same business like me in these Southeast Asian countries. And the more I talk to him, he's a person whom I learned from. He's a senior here in Cambodia as well, the business that he is doing. And he's going to talk about how he has an excellent connection in the government, in the ministries, in the UN. He was part of the UN before. And I would like to hand over to him. His topic is how to bring in business investments from India to Southeast Asia and Indo-China region in particular, including Singapore. Over to you, Mr. Bell.
Good evening to everybody. I hope everyone can hear me. First of all, thanks, Sandeep, for a very, very nice introduction. I know our friendship goes back many, many years, and it's very kind of you to say the words which you did to introduce me. I think, as you mentioned, the subject which you want me to speak on is something which we are already doing as a private company, which is to enable investment flows between India and Southeast Asia, particularly to the Indo-China countries, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos. But since today's major topic is also education, I would like to see whether I can bring these two strands together, investment on one side, but also education. And how do we see education as a cooperative venture, as a collaborative venture between India and ASEAN countries. And here I would start, of course, with Singapore, but I would then say a few words about the other countries where we are active as well. I would also like to mention that it is particularly apt that we are talking about this field today, because as Dr. Gulshan Sharma mentioned, the new education policy has just been announced in India, and this has created a huge amount of interest among people to see how this new education policy is going to be taken forward, what kind of transformative effects it is going to have in India, and also what kind of effects it is going to have in terms of India's relationship to its neighborhood and to other countries as well, because one of the goals of the new economic policy is also to encourage greater collaboration between Indian academic institutions and institutions from outside India. So I think it's a very apt moment to speak on this particular subject. I will start, first of all, by saying a few words about Singapore, because that is where I am based. And here, when we are talking about the education sector in Singapore, I would like to say that the education sector in Singapore is very much based on the country's own historical experience. As you know, Singapore was a British colony earlier, and then it was part of the Malaysian Confederation immediately after independence, and then it became a separate country starting around 1965. And when Singapore became independent, it is astonishing to look back on those days now, but Singapore was an extremely poor country with no natural resources, with nothing of its own in terms of production, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of being able to do anything. And therefore, it was it was a huge effort on the part of the leaders of Singapore at that time to see how to develop Singapore. And they did this with a single-minded vision. And I think that extended to every field in Singapore. And it also extended to the field of education. Now, in terms of education, therefore, it is no wonder that Singapore, because of its historical experience, it's a small country with a small population and had to have a very difficult start, like I mentioned. It placed before, and it continues to place a great deal of emphasis on excellence. Excellence in every field, but also in the field of education, which is why you will find that Singapore has some renowned universities which come in the top tier of rankings the world over. I'm talking about the National University of Singapore and the Nanyang Technological University, which are counted among the best universities in the world. But Singapore also has, I would say, something which I think, and I was very interested to hear this from Dr. Sharma, that we are going to have a new education policy which is going to allow many exit ramps to students, which means that you don't have to get into a degree course and have to go on for your entire 3 years or 4 years or whatever it is to complete it. You might be happy with a certificate, you might be happy with an advanced diploma, and you would be quite happy to get out with that and maybe do something else. Now, Singapore realized this itself very early. And while I was talking about these institutions of great excellence like NUS and NTU, Singapore also created another tier of institutions which are called the polytechnics, where people can join immediately after school and they can get an advanced diploma after 2 years. To account that all students are not the same. Some students are very fast developers, like some children are fast developers. Others take a little bit more time. And therefore, there is a possibility that if you don't get into NTU or universities, you can join a polytechnic, you can do a diploma for 2 years, and then you can either say, okay, now and do something, or you can say, now I'm ready to go on for a degree. And I will go back to university and I will do another 2 years and get a full degree, and then proceed on my academic career onwards. So Singapore has already come up with a lot of these methodologies, I would say, which I think can very well be emulated. Just to give you I've spoken about the universities in Singapore, like the NUS and the NTU. Of course, in order to prepare children for entering the universities, Singapore also has an excellent school system, a public school system, but there are also private schools, which all educate children towards the same Singaporean board examinations. Singapore also has a lot of international schools, which are mainly meant for the expatriate children, because they have to move from country to country and they may not be accustomed or acclimatized to the Singapore. It has a number of private international schools as well. But the interesting thing in Singapore, as I learned when I moved to Singapore, is that Singapore does not allow a Singaporean child to enter an international school, to join an international school. You have, if you're a Singaporean parents and you want your child to go into an international school, there have to be exceptional circumstances why you have to put your child in an international school. It could be because you have recently come back from abroad, where your child has already finished several years of schooling. and therefore would have difficulty in adjusting to the Singapore system. There could be circumstances, but otherwise Singapore children have to follow the Singapore system of education, then go on to university or polytechnic or whatever it is. That is the system. Now, how can, talking about cooperation and collaboration and things, in terms of investment, I would say there is already a certain degree of cooperation between India and Singapore. There are a number of schools which have been set up in Singapore with Indian investment. There is one called the Global Indian School, which some of you all may have heard of, where a lot of Indian parents who have moved to Singapore to work in various fields send their children. So there is a certain degree of, let us say, that kind of investment already taking place. But I believe that with the NEP now, the new economic policy, new education policy now being coming forward for implementation, there may be many, many more avenues of collaboration between Singapore and India. I think we could easily visualize renowned institutions like the NUS and NTU setting up joint courses with Indian universities, for instance, or having an exchange of academic staff. I would say we have premier institutions of our own in India, the IITs, the Indian Institutes of Management, the Indian Institute of Science. So we have no dearth of excellent institutions in India. So I would say there would be a very, very exciting journey ahead in terms of collaboration and cooperation between these institutions. The other area, of course, is where I would say where exchanges of personnel is concerned. There are already a lot of Indians working in Singapore in the field of pedagogy. And not only as teachers and as professors, I would say even heading up some institutes. I don't know if you all have heard of Dr. C. Raja Mohan, who used to be a very well-known journalist in India, but he is now in Singapore on a contract to head up the Institute of South Asian Studies. The Institute of South Asian Studies is actually very much subsidized and assisted by the Singapore government as a center of excellence to carry out studies on South Asia. And it is a signal honor, I would say, for somebody from India to have been asked to come and head up the Institute of South Asian Studies in Singapore. So those are a few thoughts, I think, about Singapore, and I would be happy to expand more on that if people are interested at a later stage. But I would like to briefly touch about 2 or 3 other countries which I'm familiar with. These are Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. Now these are countries which are, of course, at a slightly earlier stage of development, I would say, as compared to Singapore, although Vietnam is catching up extremely fast and is moving ahead with a very rapid GDP growth number, even during the current COVID-19 pandemic. But in countries like Cambodia and Laos, I would say there are significant possibilities for India to come in and help set up academic institutions. There are already a lot of Indian teachers and other academic staff working in these countries. Cambodia and Laos place a great deal of emphasis on studies in their own language, but also in English. Now that is an area where India is particularly fortunate in having a large number of people who are conversant with the language, and therefore they would be very, very welcome, particularly in areas such as science and maths and things like that. I have to mention in this regard, just in passing, that very recently I was approached by friends of mine, even in Cambodia, to see if I could find people from India who would be willing to come and work at some of the international schools here in Cambodia, particularly to teach maths and science and such subjects. And in fact, even a private university in Cambodia approached me and said, can we find people in India particularly to come and teach degree courses in information technology at ICT. So I think there are many, many possibilities of cooperation with these countries. And I think it's only that we need to explore further, particularly given the significant step we are taking in India itself with the new education policy to see how this can be taken forward. I will stop here. I don't want to take up too much of the time of the panel, but I'd be very happy to answer any questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend, Mr. Bell. Very informative, and I'm sure the vast experience that you have in Southeast Asia will definitely benefit all the viewers. And not only that, you rightly put that the point that it was in my mind as well, that with the present scenario the world over, West having so many issues, and India, as you rightly mentioned, has extremely world-class known institutions of its own. So there is no need, I would say we have more chances, more options for our children to either be in India or go to the East, focus on the East, that is the Singapore, as you rightly said, that there is a global Indian school. I would appeal to all the viewers who are watching this world over that we should all see and motivate people from the educational forum to come and put up more schools, institutions, educational center, as you rightly mentioned, that people have approached you for even teachers. So that all can be done. And I request Dr. Gulshan, also Dr. Gulshan Sharma, to pass on Mr. Bell's number, emails to anybody who may be interested in coming and investing in the educational system here in Southeast Asia and Indochina, Singapore region as in particular. Now, I remember my first, when I first got my international posting in Singapore, way back in 1994, coming from India, and then you such a beautiful, small, tiny little country, but so advanced. And when I used to go to the government offices or the government institutions, I was amazed to see that the difference between a private and government, which we see in India, it was totally different. I think rightly Mr. Bell pointed out that students of Singapore origin, nationals, need to study in the Singapore universities only and not the international. The reason being, I suppose, I have not studied there, but Mr. Bell can probably emphasize on that. The system of education, the quality of education would be the same. Not very much of a difference between the private and the government, which we see in the government institutions also, government offices also. You cannot make out if it's a go to a post office or a railway station or any government office, it is at par or sometimes even better than the private offices. So this is something that we can learn from Singapore. And I will definitely take your help, Mr. Bell. Anybody who comes to the chamber for investment or for any sort of a establishment in the educational sector in Indochina region and Singapore, I will seek your help and we will work together collectively. Mr. Bell is also our member of the Indian Chamber of Commerce. We are very happy to have him today. He's normally travels a lot because he has his businesses in multiple countries. And thank you, Mr. Bell, for your wonderful speech. Next, I would come to Mr. Amit Kulshresth from Pune. Amit and me, we were classmates long back, way back in, I think, 70s, early 70s in Jodhpur, Rajasthan. That's where we grew. Mr. Amit's family, as was in the introduction you would have heard, is a complete family from the educational background. His late father was a professor in the university. His elder sister is a professor in Pune. Amit is also into education. He is into digital education, and he has been running his own institute for the last 17 years. So Amit, I would hand it over to you. Please share your thinkings on the digital, which Dr. Gulshan said that we all look forward to hear from you. So over to you, Amit.
Good evening to you all. I hope you can hear me. Today, actually, I'm going to share my experiences, which I have had with the last 17 years.
Amitji, is it possible to increase your volume?
Yeah,
Sure.
we can't hear you.
Is it possible
Yeah.
to increase
Louder.
your volume, or you have to get closer to the mic? Because people can't hear you, they are just raising the hand.
Okay. Yeah. Is it clearer now? Is it
No,
possible?
little louder, please. Still more louder.
आपको
Okay.
थोड़ा थोड़ा बढ़ाना पड़ेगा, थोड़ा बढ़ाना पड़ेगा.
अच्छा, एक second.
No problem. Take your time. Take your time. Meanwhile, I can request all the participants, those who have joined us on this webinar, I would request you in the chat box, kindly send your suggestion. How can we collaborate between India and ASEAN better in education sector? Instead of going to Europe, instead of going to Canada, instead of going to United States, why can't we think of, because the 21st century belongs to Asia, all of us together, those who have joined this program this evening, and we make a commitment that the person who gives the best suggestion, you get some award and reward from the ICSI. And of course, with ICSI, I'll get you from Mr. Sandeep Majumdar from Cambodia also. Okay, so let's send your suggestion in the chat box. Now, Kulshresth ji, kindly try it out.
Yeah. Okay. Is it? Can you hear me right now? Is it
better.
audible?
Yeah, little better, but if it can improve further, nothing like that. Because see, we are going to hear a lot from you as far as animation, software, and digital. That part is very important.
Okay. Just
Amit,
hold.
आप ऐसा सोचिए that you are scolding your son. You that voice you use.
Just hold on. Hold on. Is it audible now? Is it possible? Is it
Yes,
clear
now better. Now better.
1,000 times better.
Now
Go
better?
ahead. Yes,
1,000 times better.
Oh, that's
Okay.
good. That's good. That's good.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, let's go on. Okay, I have been into this business of creating digital education for last 17 years now. And the whole thing has been a journey which has been a great pleasure for me. I really enjoying creating digital education content as such. So today, when Mr. Majumdar invited me to give a talk on this subject, I jumped onto it. I literally wanted to give a talk on this subject. So let's start off with the topic itself. I will yeah, so I'll share my screen with you right now. Okay, and the topic is innovative methods in digital education for informative and enjoyable learning. Now, this topic itself was a long topic. So I divided this topic into three parts. The first part, which is digital education. Second part is informative and enjoyable learning. And third part, of course, is innovative methods. So I'll take you through all the three parts today. Let's start off with the journey from Gurukul to digital education. From ancient times, we have been teaching students, and the students have learned. But only thing that has improved, even though the teacher and students are still there, anything that has improved is only one thing, which is the tools of education. So let's see, in Gurukul system, there was a teacher who would teach to the students. There was a teacher involved. Then came the blackboard, in which there was a blackboard on which you could produce ideas, and a teacher and books helped for the education. Then the next was a digital whiteboard, which came in, and the visualization became better. People could see it from a distance, and you could create diagrams in color, even though you could do it in blackboard also. Then in overhead projector, OHP, which came in, you could have a bigger and a wider screen on which you could show slides which could be prepared at home. These could be color slides, and these could be prepared at home. And then came the era of a projector, a LCD LED projector. These then started the era of PowerPoint, and we could show text, slides, images, animation, anything that it could show. From this, we change over to the digital form of the education, which is digital smart boards. So the smart boards, the content was given through the web or through the CDs or pen drives, and they would therefore display the data and could be interacted with. This, of course, translated through the web. The content was translated on the computers and the tablets and mobile phones. And now today the era of mobile phone has come. So what does this all mean? What is the meaning of this digital education? So when we look at the term digital education, I find some problems with it. So my thing is, this definition is teaching and learning delivered electronically. I think in the future times, it will come as learning delivered electronically and maybe without books and teachers. So when you actually are learning, so it is a student-centric, that is the customer-centric. And when you talk about education, it is both teacher and students. So the right way would be learning. So that brings us to the second part of it, which is informative and enjoyable learning. Now here, when I talk about enjoyable learning, this term learning, if I deal with, what is learning per se? So somebody gives an explanation and we understand. And that is what is called as learning. So a better explanation would lead to a better learning and a better retention, and superlative, best, so best learning. So how to bring about a better explanation? Now the better explanation can be brought about by using animation, storytelling, interactivity, and gamification. So these are tools which are there of education which have come about, and these can be used so that education can be more lively, more entertaining, more enjoyable. So let's see. This is a basic communication model, which is how teachers explain communication model. So there's a teacher teaches, matches is encoded. A student receives, matches is decoded. Environmental noise is there, the noise which is there in the classroom, outside the classroom, back talk of the student, and there's a feedback from the student to teacher. So teacher decodes it. So student encodes and teacher decodes it. So this is the basic diagram: sender, message, receiver, encoding, decoding, feedback, and noise. Now from this, if we want to explain and hope that learning will occur, this is the regular PowerPoint presentations which are done on the Zooms and other areas, meets and all that. So when we say learning, maybe we can improve. So can we create it in a story style? So let's take an example. There is Miss Lucy from Argentina, who's trying to talk to Miss Alia, who's from Malaysia. And Alia is presently in a market, so it's very noisy, and unfortunately she can't understand English very well. So can we introduce some elements into it? So let's see, suppose if I introduce...
Hello, Ms. Alia, this is Lucy from Argentina. Can you hear me?
And there's a market noise.
Lucy were noise market and lose no speak.
And she has encoded the message in English voice, and Lucy is encoded it, and Alia decodes it. The message is decoded, unfortunately, in English voice, which she cannot understand. So she gives a feedback to Lucy that she cannot understand English. This can be posed as a problem to students and we can look for solutions for them. So I'm talking about digitally. So once we show the problem to the students and hope for the responses, then after that we can present a solution. The solution is very simple. She can use text or SMS. So she can, hello Miss Alia, this is Lucy from Argentina. Have you received my consignment in English? She can translate. And this translation can be then into Malaya language, and this Malaya language translation is sent to Alia, and Alia is actually decoding the message in Malaya language and again encoding it for Lucy in Malaya language and sending it to Lucy. And Lucy decodes it into English language and says, which says, thanks Lucy, I've received it. So the whole idea is we can make it in a story format, much more enjoyable, right? So this negates the noise and is a better way of doing it. What is happening over here? Now, these are what we have created are better tools, deliver better digital education. Better tools, right now the tools are text, diagram, image, and even video. These are basically the visual and the oral inputs. When we talk about animation, story, interactivity, and gamification, these become what we call as enjoyment and informative tools. And when we talk about virtual reality and augmented reality, then these becomes the multi-sensory. These are virtual reality and augmented reality we can use in education very well. But of course, at present, the medium is a problem. So that brings us to the innovative methods. So once I've told you the 4 methods, animation, story, interactivity, and gamification, I'll give you some examples about them, and of course about virtual reality and augmented reality. I've got 4 examples over here, which is into animation, story, gamification, and interactivity. So let's have a look at that. This is created by my company.
Iron ore, limestone and coke are crushed into a pulverizer. The crushed material is then collected in weighing hopper.
This is interactive.
Operate pulverizer. Mixture of iron ore, limestone and coke called as charge is released from weighing hopper into a trolley. A conveyor then takes this trolley filled with charge to the blast furnace. Fill material in trolley. Before feeding the charge, blast of hot air is introduced from hot air stoves into the blast furnace to heat up the furnace. Prepare the blast furnace by heating it to 800 degrees Celsius. Introduce the charge into blast furnace. Drop the charge into blast furnace through the hopper.
Yeah, the second example is of story. The first one is of interactive. The second one is of story. I have been created Japanese language software in my site. So just have a look at it.
सुबह जब हम किसी से मिलते हैं तो हम उन्हें किस तरह से उनसे बात करते हैं। हम शुरुआत करते हैं ओहायो गोजाइमासु, जो हमारे अंदर जाने पर जब वो आपको बैठने के लिए कहते हैं तो वो कहेंगे दोजो ओकाके कुदासाई। जापान में जब भी खाना खाते हैं तो खाना खाने से पहले उनका ये एक उनके संस्कारों में है कि एक आदत है उन लोगों की कि खाने से पहले वो हमेशा कहते हैं इतादाकिमासु, हाथ जोड़ के।
Okay, so these were two examples. The third one is of gamification we tried. Now, Professor Sharma had asked me about gamification. Yeah, we can do gamification of animations, which is a tough job. It's not an easy job. And we can do, of course, gamification of quiz. So that example I've not introduced here, but I'll show you a Bohr model, that is Niels Bohr model, how we can do a gamification of that. It was a really tough job. So let's see.
Learning mode for beginner. Click on. Choose energy level for an electron jump. Choose values, series, or spec. You have to click on a number. In white, choose any other series. Select spectrum from red to violet. You have to click on a number. In white, you have to click on a number. You have to click on a number. You have to click on a number in white color. Now click on another energy level button above to jump higher. You have to click on a number in choose values, series, or spectrum. Now click on another energy level button above to jump higher, or click on emission button to jump. Make the electron jump to lower energy level or orbital. Now choose another orbital to jump lower, or click on absorption button to jump higher.
The last one is about animation. This was made for fractions and keeping the children in mind. So we tried to make it as simple as possible.
Fraction made easy. Click on these buttons. A fraction consists of two numbers, a numerator and a denominator, with the dividing line separating them. Numerator upon denominator in 3 upon 4. 3 is called the numerator, and 4 is called the denominator. What is a numerator? The numerator shows how many parts are being considered. Example 1. Jojo has ordered a jumbo jungle pizza. Then, he divides it into 4 equal parts. And eats 1 part. She eats 1/4 part of the pizza. Here 1 part is numerator.
Now the last example is from AR and VR, augmented reality and virtual reality. We have not developed anything, so I got it from the YouTube.
These days, we spend a lot of time looking at screens. Computers, smartphones, and televisions are a big part of our lives. They're how we get most of our news, use social media, watch movies, and more. Virtual reality and augmented reality are 2 technologies changing the way we use screens, creating new and exciting interactive experiences. Virtual reality, also known as VR, uses a headset with a built-in screen that displays a virtual environment for you to explore. These headsets use a technology called head tracking, which allows you to look around the environment by simply moving your head. Augmented reality, or AR, is a bit different. Instead of transporting you to a virtual world, it takes digital images and layers them on the real world around you. This is done through the use of either a clear visor or a smartphone. So with VR, you could explore a world full of dinosaurs. But with AR, you could see those dinosaurs moving through the world around you. Both of these technologies are growing at a rapid pace and being implemented in a variety of different ways. Surgeons are using VR to practice highly technical surgeries before operating. Businesses are using them to give consumers virtual tours of products and locations. There are even apps that can use your smartphone's camera to scan and translate a foreign language in real time. As they continue to grow, VR and AR have the potential to greatly change almost every industry. You'll want to keep an eye on them to see how they might soon affect your job and potentially your everyday life.
So this was my presentation. I don't know I hope you could hear me. But in any case, I've tried to show you what digital education is about and some examples from it. And that's all for today. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Amit. It was absolutely pleasure having you as a speaker, and your digital explanation of your talk has been very interesting. And I'm sure people viewing it all over the world would have many questions to ask, and interesting questions probably. So we can take that after the session. Now I would move to our next speaker, but I don't see him on the screen, although he says he's online. Mr. Sudip, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
But why are you not? Okay, you are there. Okay. Fine. But you are not there on the panel screen. Okay, fine.
I am in the panel screen.
You're there. Okay, fine. So our next speaker is Mr. Sudit Majumdar from Calcutta. Of course, he will be speaking on the subject of making education relevant in light of Swami Vivekananda's philosophy. So over to you, Mr. Sudip.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you, my co-panelists, Mr. Bell and Amit, my old schoolmate. It was a pleasure listening to you and get enriched. Both of you are from the industry, so both the talks were very meaningful. I would like to thank Dr. Gulshan Sharma for inviting me on this panel of eminent people. I don't know whether I really deserve that to be on this panel. Well, since I was asked to speak on this topic, I, started thinking, what can I talk? I will just give me a minute. I would like to share a screen with you.
We can see it, G. We can see it.
Okay, thank you. I was not able to see it.
We are able to see making education relevant in the light of Swami
Vivekananda's philosophy. Right. Thank you so much. When I was asked to speak on the topic making education relevant, I sat down and was pondering on the subject. I decided to break the subject up word by word and try to understand it. The two key words that came up were education and relevant. And of course, the third word, making, made the topic significant. When I did that, there were a number of questions that came up into my mind. Very logical. What do we mean by education? What is the purpose of education? What is the role of a teacher? What is the meaning of relevant? What is relevance of education? And finally, how can we make education relevant? The more I started thinking about these questions, the more I started relating the answers to the philosophy of Swami Vivekananda. So in today's presentation, I will try to address the topic in light of Vivekananda's philosophy. The first question which I said came to my mind was, what do we mean by education? Is it book learning? No. If it was so, then all the librarians of the world would have been the most educated persons. Then, is it diverse knowledge? No, not even that. If diversity of knowledge would have been the barometer of level of education, then the politicians world over would have been the most educated persons. Then what do we mean by education? Looking at it from the philosophical side of Vivekananda, he says, the training by which the current and expression of will are brought under control and become fruitful is education. Very meaningful, Education is not the amount of information that we put into our brain and it runs a riot there undigested. If you have assimilated even 5 ideas and make them your life and character, you will be more educated than a person who might have got by heart the whole library. Swami Vivekananda said, education is the manifestation of the perfection already in man. So we can say that all knowledge is within. Education enables manifestation of that knowledge and perfection. This brought me to the next logical question. If everything is within, then what is the purpose of education? Well, the very essence of education is concentration of mind. Just like uncontrolled water results in devastation in the form of floods, similarly, uncontrolled flow of current and expression in the garb of education can do more harm than any good. And this control of current and expression comes from the concentration of mind. The power of concentration is the only key to the treasure house of knowledge. The whole secret of knowledge lies in concentration. And through that concentration, we can come out with all that is within. If that is so, then what is the role of a teacher? My dear friend Amit, in his last presentation just now, almost nullified the role of a teacher through the use of technology. And that is something which is coming. But then, Amit, don't take any offenses. I would be, I would relate a teacher's role to that of a gardener. What does a gardener do? A gardener removes the weeds, waters the plant, and prepares the soil for the plant to grow. The growing capacity of the plant is within the plant. The gardener cannot enhance it. Similarly, the role of a teacher is to remove the obstacles, provide the opportunities, and offer suggestions to enable the student to think. Now, this is a very important factor, a faculty. If a child, a student, is not helped to think, then he would be a Xerox copy of his teacher. The faculty of thinking has to grow. And that is where education, the role of a teacher is, to educate the child to think. Everyone develops according to his own nature. When time comes, everyone will come to know this truth. Do you think you can educate a child? As a teacher, if it was so, a teacher teaches a class of 30, 40, 50 students. Why is it that every student develops differently in his life? It was the same teacher, it was the same teaching, but it was something inherent within the nature of that child which made him develop into one that he used to be. So, a child which educates himself, a teacher's job is to provide the necessary opportunity and remove the obstacles. Just like, as I said, the gardener does his job. No one was ever really taught by another. Each one of us teaches himself. The external teacher offers suggestions which rouses the internal teacher to work to understand things. Now, this can be very well understood, you know. We all know the story of Newton. He was sitting under a tree, an apple fell down, he observed it, and he came up with the law of gravitation. Many before him had seen an apple or anything drop down. Did any external teacher teach Newton the concept of gravity? No. The external teacher in the form of nature prompted his thought process, and his internal teacher worked upon it to come up with the now famous law of gravitation. Now let me come to the second word that was in that topic, that is relevant. You know, I looked up the dictionary and found 3 acronyms: significant, important, meaningful. This helped me to understand the meaning of relevant. And when I tried to correlate it with the first word, the keyword education, it struck me that education helps us to be significant and in the process become important, so that we may make our existence meaningful. This is where the relevance of education lies, so aptly put forward by Swami Vivekananda: to be and to make. The next question was, what do we mean by relevance of education? You know, the natural thing is we get educated and we find ways to live, find an income, support our family, and become financially sound. Now, if you look at the present education system, there is something wrong somewhere. The mind is crammed with facts before it knows how to think. We need to educate our masses so that they may be able to solve their own problems. Once that is done, then, and if it is not done, unless it is done, these ideals of reforms will remain mere ideals. The education which does not help the common masses to equip themselves for the struggle of life, which does not bring out the strength of character, a spirit of philanthropy, and the courage of a lion, is it worth the name? Very, very important and strong words by Sharma. He says, the real education is that which enables one to stand on his own legs. Education must provide life-building, man-making, character-making assimilation of ideas. If it were not so,
Somewhere, I think the video has got.
Yeah, there is some issue with the.
What we can do,
Yes.
you can just play the audio. Maybe the bandwidth is a little low over there.
Possible. Yeah, Sudip, can you hear us? I think he seems to have gone.
No, you can proceed. We can get him again. No worry.
Yes, yes. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So basically, I was very brief in introducing him because many of you would be wondering why the name and the surname so similar. And then he talks about Amit being his classmate. I also said Amit is my classmate. So you all will be wondering how come 2 different people having the same classmates, and also he's basically my twin brother, but I have brought him for a different reason. He was in US heading one of the huge international organization, and he left everything for the service of mankind, and he has opened a trust 20 years back. And while he was giving his speech before it went off, he said that the meaning of education means to put the students on your own leg. Now, till he comes back, I will just give you a brief about what kind of a work he is doing in Shantiniketan, which is our Rabindranath Tagore's place. That there are 18 villages where he works, and he has his trust and NGO, the Nayantara NGO, which you have seen that Dr. Gulshan introducing you. Now there, what they do is not that they give the money and ask them to do their livelihood. No, they teach them different segments of industry. So they, like, it is poultry, agriculture. They do the organic stuffs. They do this education. Education is something which he has. The reason why I brought him to talk is because Tata was supporting them for last 4 years, and they have these tribals. They work in tribal, mind you. They don't even know the Bengali language also. They know only their own tribal language. Those people, those students who used to walk down 14 kilometers to attend these classes, these kind of children's a success story, which I really appreciate, not because he's my brother, with the team that they have worked, that 65 to 70% marks in the 10th and 11th standards people have. Those tribal students who did not know even the Bengali language, leave apart other languages, or in Hindi or in English for that matter. But I was pleasantly surprised when I went there in December to see his trust, that these tribal boys and girls can sing English poems, can recite English poems without a paper in their hand. So these kind of education he has, his team and he are doing. So I thought it will be relevant for him to come and speak. Now, we all heard Dr. Gulshan and my friend Mr. Bell talking about the new education policy, which was just recently announced. Now, you all must have gone through it. Some of you may not, but a few points that I wanted to pick up from there. So people who have not yet got time to go through that can get a glimpse of what has been discussed in that. The first and foremost is respect of diversity and local context. Equity and inclusion as a cornerstone of all education decisions. Community participation, which is encouragement and facilitations for philanthropic, private, and community participation. Then use of technology, which my friend Amit did presentation on that. So in teaching of learning, removing language barriers from Divyang students and in education planning and management. Next is universal access to early childhood care and education, which they call as ECCE. So to the age of 3 to 6 years, access to free, safe, high quality childhood care and education, Anganwadis, preschool, and Balwatika. Then there have also been a mention of foundation learning of curriculum from age group 3 to 6, divided into 2 parts. One is 3 to 6 in ECCE and age 6 to 8 in class 1 and 2 in primary school. It was also mentioned ensuring universal access to education at all levels, multiple pathways, build schools, learning outcomes, bring back dropouts, alternative centers, and peer tutoring. Then there was a mention of reduction in curriculum, core essentials, critical thinking, interaction classes, experimental learning. It was also mentioned in the caption, the textbook with local content and flavor. This is something which is very, very important. We all learn English, Spanish, French, but our local language and mother tongue is normally missed out. So that is also emphasized in this new education policy. Knowledge of India. this is also a very, very important point which has been mentioned. We have all moved around the world, but sometimes we don't know our country properly. So that is something which is going to be taught from the school days. That is very good. The achievement of critical learning outcomes and reforming examinations in grade 9 to 12, including board exams. Transforming the culture of assessment. How you assessed, that is important, where they have given in detail. Of course, I don't want to get into details that all of you will get in the site. Holistic progress card, which is also very important, which they have included in the new education policy. Multilingual and the power of language learning up till grade 5 and preferably till grade 8 and beyond will be home language, mother tongue, local language. 3 languages to be taught, to be decided by the state. I think Dr. Gulshan was mentioning about this in his initial speech. Then probably one more point which has been focused is focus on socio-economical disadvantaged groups, which is known as SEDGs, gender identities, socio-culture identities, geographical identities, disabilities, and socio-economic conditions. And last, there are many other points, but the one this is the limitation of the time. The other one is goals and timeline for implementation. It will not be like before, that earlier days, okay, the course is for 3 years or it spans over a few months and all that. That also will not be done. So anyway, I will hand it over to Dr. Gulshan, Gulshan Sharma. From my side, I think our last speaker is not able to rejoin.
He's back with us.
Oh, he's back with us. Okay, then over to you, Sudip. If you were on which slide?
Sudip ji is back with us.
Very sorry, I was thrown out.
No.
Okay, let me share the screen again. I think I was here.
Yes, you were here.
So I'll quickly wrap up because I know time is an important limitation. Well, for education will become relevant once the taught is able to learn from his or her experience and convert that knowledge into an application which is meaningful and beneficial to mankind. And the beauty lies in the fact that when one is able to apply the knowledge learned through experience for the good of humanity, he automatically proves our earlier point highlighted by Vivekananda, to be and to make. And finally, as I come to the end of my presentation, answering the questions that came to my mind on seeing the topic, I find myself face to face with the reply of most of the significant question, the most significant question. How can we make education relevant? Well, education will be made relevant only when it is able to ensure the growth of 5 verticals in the top. What are those 5 verticals? Number 1, creation of self-confidence and self-realization. The very belief that every soul is potentially divine and that all knowledge is within will boost the self-confidence of an individual. He then will be able to manifest the perfection already within, leading to self-realization. The second important vertical is formation of character. Swami Vivekananda had emphasized on character building education. Real education enables formation of character, without which we will end up producing IAS toppers coming back to jail due to corruption. The third vertical is the development of personality. Man-making education that Swamiji talked about can only produce personalities which will inspire others. What good is a matchstick if it cannot light the candles around? So if we are able to develop that personality through the education system, whereby every individual can go out and inspire 1,000 more, then only that education will be found to be relevant. The fourth vertical is the promotion of universal brotherhood. This will result in broadening of the heart such that one experiences the feeling of oneness and omnipresence of soul. If education is able to promote universal brotherhood, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, this world will be rid of hatred and terrorism. And finally, the most important vertical, that is service of mind. Education which teaches one to be selfless is the only relevant education whereby one can apply oneself to the service of mankind as if he is doing service of God. The motto being Atmana Mokshartam Jagat Hitayate, for one's own liberation and good of mankind. And let me end my presentation by quoting this great philosopher saint. Education, education, education alone. Through education comes faith in oneself, and through faith in oneself, the inherent Brahman is awakened up. Let us all help us awaken that inherent Brahman within and be of relevant for the good of mankind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sudip. I wholeheartedly would like to thank all our esteemed speakers, Mr. Jesudas Bell, Mr. Amit Kulshresth, and Mr. Sudip Majumdar. Thanks to Dr. Gulshan, Sharma, entire ICSI team, Professor Narula in Bangkok, other Dato Ramesh in Malaysia, and all our relevant dignitaries who have been working day in and out. This has been going on since June, as you all know, and it is going to end in 15th of August. So there is a huge work, efforts being done by ICSI and Dr. Gulshan, as we always say, a person of 70 with a heart of 20. He goes on and on. And I support Dr. Gulshan. You will have in Chamber of Commerce support in whatever you do now and in future. And you have a new friend here, Mr. Bell, whom also you will see supporting on anything that is required in Southeast Asia and Indo-China region in particular. Over to you, Mr. Dr. Gulshan.
Thank you very much, Sandeep Majumdar ji. First of all, we started a beautiful notes and which had come through, particularly when I talk about Mr. Jesudas Bell sahab. The leader of education in Southeast Asia, when I talk about, you've got to give the credit to Singapore, and you've got to really respect Singapore, the way they have done their education system. So I would request Mr. Bell that let's bring Singapore further closer via ASEAN route to India, and children from India and particularly from Punjab, when I talk about all my kids and my grandkids, when I think about Punjabis, they think that they will go to USA and Donald Trump would be waiting at the airport and he would say, my son-in-law, you have come, please take my daughter, take care of US, and entire economy is yours, the country is yours, and everything is yours. That's the way they go. And after going over there, when they work at petrol pump and they fill gas stations and all that, then they realize where the world is. But at the same time, the digital divide, which I talk about, Mr. Amit Kulshresth ji, the people, those have done the IT part or the ITES part or IoT part, Internet of Things, when I talk about, the future of the reality is, because children, education should not be dry. Education should be fun. Education should be stimulating. Education should be rewarding. Education should take out the creativity. And education should basically, what Mr. Sudip mentioned later on, what is the purpose of education? Why education? Why do I go to school or college or institution? during this corona, we have done another study. It's very interesting. 30% parents in United States have already decided that they will have the home schools after this corona. They are not going to send their children to institutions because they have found this is altogether different. In the Western school of thought, if we have seen on the YouTube, it's fine. If we have not seen, there is a gentleman called Sir Ken Robinson. Sir Ken Robinson. We must watch his videos if we have not watched. And those of us, those are in education fraternity. And his first video, that is called Do Schools Kill Creativity? That is the title of the book, and that is the title of the YouTube, which you go through and you understand. Do schools kill creativity? Because unless you don't make a child creative. Now, at the same time, what Amit ji has shown and what he has given the pedagogy over there and the kind of a display, every child is going to enjoy because they want to have it that way. When I talk about ancient India, when I talk about the heritage of India, when I talk about the civilization of India, when I talk about the roots of India, and when I talk about the roots of education, then comes Sudip Majumdar, because the reason being, the more and more during this corona, when I have studied and I have tried to understand, I know hardly 1% of what is the purpose of education. I myself do not know till date. But the more I have read on Takshila, the more I have read on Nalanda. I have watched more than 60 videos on Nalanda, world's first residential university with 10,000 students and 2,000 acharyas, and name a subject which was not taught over there. And imagine the library, the research, the innovation, the books, they were on fire for months together. And the gentleman who was mad and he wanted to destroy, he couldn't imagine what was the treasure of the knowledge with those acharyas and those youth. And all my brothers and sisters should not feel bad because, well, we have been a part of colony, that's a different thing. But today when I talk about Macaulay, when he went back and he spoke in the British Parliament, he says, if you want to rule India, first destroy their education system. So ladies and gentlemen, this new education policy and the new pedagogy, we need Sudip Majumdar also, we need Mr. Amit also, and we need Mr. Bahal's support also, because I am of a firm opinion, if 21st century, and I would request, like they say, if you want to ask somebody as an elder, open your hands. So this evening, Mr.D, Jesudas Bell, I open my both the hands right before you, and I ask from you, kindly bring Kishore Mehbubani as soon as possible. He's from Singapore. His book is West, Now You Rest. And he has told 19th century belonged to Europe, 20th century belonged to US, and 21st century belongs to Asia. We need Vivekananda also, we need Amit's animation also, and we need Jesudas Bell support from Trichapalli to Singapore also. That is the way we can work and we can plan. And there's another gentleman I'll give you. His first name I'll just get. Yes, Parag Khanna. Parag Khanna is based out of Singapore. If you want to read and if you want to understand, ladies and gentlemen, those are watching us on the Facebook or in the webinar, do go through some of the videos of Parag Khanna. This young boy, he has got a fire in the belly. He's based out of Singapore. And geopolitical situations, if you want to understand, he's the person who talks sense. And he's the person who talks so much of knowledge reservoir. So thereby, as a humble student, I need this evening Sudip Majumdar also. I need Amit Kulshresth also. And I need D. Jesudas Bell Sahab also. And of course, my deep regards and great thanks to Sandeep Majumdar ji, because he's the one who brought these together. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever you want to deal with someone, they say, chances always favor prepared mind. Today is 2nd of August. 9th of August, next Sunday, is the Independence Day of Singapore. 9th of August, next Sunday is Singapore Independence Day. Now, thereafter, 5th of September is being celebrated as Teachers' Day in India. And 2nd of September is Vietnam's Independence Day. Mr. Bell, during his talks, he mentioned Vietnam economy is moving faster. It's going Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, whatever we talk about, different parts and all. Ladies and gentlemen, last slide which Sudip ji has shown, that was mind-blowing. 3 words I picked up: education, education, and education alone, which can bring the world peace, which can bring the global harmony, which can bring entire humanity together, which can bring all of us together. So we need all of you. And with these words, my deepest regards and thanks and gratitude to each one of you. And at the same time to all the participants also who sent wonderful suggestions on Facebook watch parties also, and in this particular webinar right over here in the chat box also. Next Sunday, we will be first taking on these points, and thereafter we will be proceeding. Sandeep Majumdar ji, we need more and more and more and more and more people. Those are from education fraternity. People, those are going to be, because there was one vice chancellor who came recently on my program, and his question made me speechless. He asked the first thing, and I closed this session with that: who am I? मैं कौन हूं? पहले ये तो जान लूं मैं कौन हूं, उसके बाद मैं पढ़ाई लिखाई की बातचीत करूंगा. First of all, let's understand who am I. So ladies and gentlemen, there is a purpose of our life, whosoever has come on this planet. There are 2 days which are most important in our life. One day which you celebrate as your birthday, and second day when you come to know why you are born and what are you contributing to society, to humanity. With these words, India and ASEAN have to get closer. India and ASEAN have to come together. And if we want the Asian continent to take on the 21st century, Mr. Bell has to play a very important role. It was a pleasure. Almost 10 years back, I delivered a motivational talk in Institute of South Asian Studies, which was arranged by our president. And I'm so grateful. There's one Mr. Pillai also. If I recollect, when I went to, there is a Singapore Indo Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Pillai, and I have been told now he has moved to this particular institution right over there. There is a lot which we can do in this region. Let all the countries, all the 10 countries, start getting people together. And India, from this side, we will get together. Let's move and let's take it on. Look forward meeting you 5 p.m. next Sunday. That is 9th of August, the Independence Day of Singapore. We all celebrate and jubilate together, and yet another powerful program. People, those are watching, tomorrow evening, 7 p.m., making education relevant, Monday to Friday. Saturday morning, Buddhism, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Saturday evening, wellness. Sunday morning, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And Sunday evening, here is a special session of India-ASEAN. And 9th, we are also starting a new program, Ministry of MSME, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise. So that's why, Sandeep ji, from next Sunday, we would be dedicating only 1 hour for this program, because 7 to 8, there'll be a program on micro, small and medium enterprise also coming from next Sunday. That is 9th of September. Wishing you all a great evening, wonderful evening, and happiness and a peace world over. Wherever we all are, let's build a world global Vasudev Kutumbakam, coming from Trichurapalli to Singapore and to ASEAN and to all the places. Namaskar, Pranam. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your valuable time. Thanks for your valuable suggestions. And you gave us a wonderful